You are listening to the radio during a nuclear apocalypse. This is Marcus Hale, broadcasting on 1170 AM from the backup studio in the basement of Croway, 42 kilometers east of what used to be downtown Kansas City, Missouri. If you can hear me, congratulations. You still have a receiver that works, power to run it, and a heartbeat. That makes two of us, at least for tonight. Outside, the sky looks like someone smeared charcoal over a dying sunset. Low stratus clouds seeded with debris, glowing faintly from the fires to the west. Visibility fell to 300 meters at dusk and keeps dropping. The ash is too fine for my floodlights to pick up until it's inside the ventilation filters. Wind from 295 degrees at 14 knots, gusting to 20. Temperature 4 Celsius and dropping. The barometer fell 6 millibars in the last hour. That tells me the high-altitude dust is already shading the region, so expect colder nights fast. Let me start with a short roll call of known strike zones, confirmed by NOAA's GOES-T imagery before their feed froze at 1312. Kansas City proper, Whiteman Air Force Base, Offutt, Minot, Barksdale, Cheyenne Mountains surface entrance, Tinker, and, judging by the double flash in the thermal channel, Dallas Love Field. St. Louis looked intact when the satellites went blind. Chicago lit up near O'Hare, not the Loop. Denver's plume was visible, which implies the old Titan fields took at least one direct hit, maybe more. That's the hard data. Everything else is rumor, so treat it like a rumor. I'm running a Collins 20V3 transmitter on reduced power, about 900 watts carrier, because the diesel stockpile is finite. The generator is a Cummins QSB with an aftermarket exhaust built by the late Dave Mercer, chief engineer from our FM sister station. Dave didn't make it out of the city. The fuel will last 64 days if I ration to 6 hours on air daily, plus periodic emergency bursts. I'll try to keep a regular window, 2000 to 0, 200 hours central until the oil runs out, or my Geiger counter reads bad news. I can't see Kansas City's skyline from here anymore, but I know what I heard. 2 subsonic booms half a second apart, the signature of a MERV pair. We were off air for maintenance when the first warning came, and Ian Header on the emergency alert system that never reached full message. Just a blip, then dead carrier. Cell towers died first, then the grid sagged. The EMP was weaker this far east, so the old tube gear survived. Solid-state devices? Toast. My phone's dark glass now. If you got a late 70s transistor portable and it still plays, count your blessings and keep spare 9 volts sealed in foil. Why am I talking? Because Morse code doesn't calm nerves, and silence breeds worse rumors than truth. Also, someone needs to keep a ledger of what's left. So here we go. Local situational report. Highway 24 is impassable west of Blue Springs. Bridge decking over the Little Blue River collapsed after shock waves cracked the support struts. Fire crews tried to douse the fuel train derailment near Independence Junction, but ran out of water pressure when the pumps lost power. I intercepted a short VHF burst from Station 54, the last volunteer fire captain, at 1520. He said the tank cars were carrying ethanol, not crude, which buys us cleaner smoke but hotter flames. Stay upwind if you're north of the river. Radiation readings at my door peaked at 1.7 millisieverts per hour around 1600, down to 0.9 now. That's higher than OSHA will ever allow again, but survivable for short forays. I'm cycling the intake filters every 4 hours. If you have a Civil Defense CDV 700 or even an old rate alert monitor, keep it on your person. If it clicks faster than a cheap wristwatch ticks, head indoors, seal gaps with damp towels, and wait it out. Beta burns are the silent kind. You won't feel them until your skin itches like sunburn you never earned. Now, to the reason most of you tune in. Safe corridors and shelter cords, compiled from hams on 3850 kilohertz and the Missouri State Guard's intermittent HF net. I'll repeat them twice, slow, so write it down. First, the abandoned limestone mine system under Independence, locals call it Subtropolis, has a volunteer medical team at grid 67.2, 39.5 west, 16 meters below surface via the south dock ramp. They report negative radiation readings inside due to the overburden. Food reserves, 2 weeks for 30 souls. They will accept newcomers if you bring water, batteries, canned goods, or skills. They turned away one man with symptoms of acute radiation sickness today. I wasn't given his name. Second, Union Pacific Southern freight yards have a 4-car consist converted into temporary housing, but the guard abandoned the post at 1700 after looters threatened gunfire. Status unknown by nightfall. Approach only if you can signal first on CB Channel 17, handle grain hopper. Expect armed but disciplined occupants. Third, there was a rumor of a National Guard convoy forming at the Applebee's parking lot on East 23rd Street, but I drove the Crowe news van past at 1340. Nothing but glass and overturned SUVs. Scratch that off your map. All right, paperwork done. Let me level with you. I've been on this frequency 7 hours straight, off and on, and the fatigue's carving grooves under my eyes, so I'll log off soon and conserve diesel. Before I do, a note on the strange interference some of you reported. At 2000 sharp, several listeners across the band from Carrollton, Topeka, and a woman south of Joplin described hearing a pulsed hiss under my voice. 3 seconds on, 3 off, repeating. I don't monitor my own carrier in real time, no duplex system, so I recorded a segment on a cassette deck, played it back, and sure enough, there's a rhythmic spike in the spectrum around 4 kilohertz. It's too regular for lightning static and too narrow for a power line arc. My guess is it's coming from one of the surviving VLF naval stations bouncing off the ionosphere, maybe Jim Creek in Washington. If that's the case, we're picking up automated emergency communications, probably an EAM, or Emergency Action Message coded for subs. Trouble is, the EAM format I know uses 17-character groups spoken by a voice synthesizer on HF, not VLF pulses leaking into AM. So either protocol changed since the manuals I read, or something new is talking out there. If anyone out there has a laptop still working inside a Faraday cage and software-defined radio gear, record the pattern, then slow it to audible range. Listen for phase-shifted digital modes like MSK or STANAG. I used to dabble, but my SDR melted. All I've got is a pair of crystal filters and a Tektronix scope built when NASA used slide rules. I'll be back on this mic tomorrow. Same window. Until then, remember inverse square law. Distance and shielding are your best friends. Stay hydrated. Use tote lids as improvised rain catches. Boil twice if your iodine tablets ran out. And save 1 battery for your receiver. Knowledge shared is life saved. I almost forgot. Personal note. If a black Ford F-150 with Missouri plate 584 Victor Sierra is listening, you belong to my sister Anna. I saw the truck near the Grain Valley exit this morning. Driver's side window intact, no sign of forced entry, so I pray you're alive. I've left a note taped inside the glove box with this frequency. Scratch 3 lines on the windshield wiper if you stop by during daylight so I know you're close. I'll keep the North Tower beacon flashing sunset to sunrise. All right, that's enough. Marcus Hale signing off at 2201. If the stars come back tomorrow, look for Orion near the southern horizon. If the dust clears, you might just see him drawing that bow. Good night. And if you're still tuned in, here's a quick diary entry. I'm archiving these tapes for whoever rebuilds, if anyone does. When I was a kid, Dad let me build a crystal set with a Galena diode. I spent nights turning a rusty screw across the lead point hunting oldies on WLAC out of Nashville. That squeal when you hit resonance? Same note in my head right now, except I can't tune it out. All day I kept thinking the blasts would come with thunder, like the movies. Great roaring pulses. Instead, the pressure hit first. A dull slap against the city like God dropping a phone book flat on the pavement. Then the flash. 2 suns. White enough to bleach the inside of your eyelids. Radio towers downtown folded as the shockwave rolled south to north. I watched them fall from the Crowe roof. That image replays every time I blink. I cleaned the intake filters again. The mesh looks like it was dusted with powdered slate. I'm labeling each cartridge with date and dosage readings for later study, if my lungs cooperate long enough. The water drums in the hallway read 6 microsiemens per centimeter. Safe, but climbing. I'll add another charcoal stage tomorrow. Someone parked a red Honda Civic outside the front gate around 1900. They flashed headlights 3 times. I stepped out in full Tyvek, signaled with a chem light, but they tore off when I approached. Good to know the engine block still runs on unleaded, drawn from siphoned lawnmowers. I keep glancing at the clock. I used to dread dead air more than dead time. Now the silence scares me less than the notion that somewhere someone is still ordering the next missile launch. If that rhythmic interference is military chatter, then maybe the war machine outlasted the war. Ventilation's rattling. That means the fans need lubrication again. I'll shut down for real now. Sleep while you can. Dawn's only a brighter shade of gray these days. Marcus Hale back at the microphone. Power onto the exciter at 800 watts. If this message sounds weaker tonight, blame diesel. I've cut the output by 15% to stretch reserves. First, a personal confirmation. Someone scratched 3 lines on the windshield of the black F-150 outside. Anna, if that was you, and if you're listening, leave another mark tomorrow. I left canned soup and a hand-crank flashlight in the truck bed. I won't pursue you, just stay safe. Now to the general broadcast. I intercepted new shortwave traffic at 1430 on 6.01 MHz, upper sideband. Call sign Red River. They claim to be a medical convoy originating from Wichita, heading north on I-135, detouring around clogged overpasses. Convoy composition: 3 school buses painted white, 1 fuel truck, and a decontamination trailer rig. Estimated arrival near Junction City tomorrow evening. They request anyone with pharmacy-grade antibiotics meet them at the Fort Riley Visitor Center. If you go, wear a respirator and carry a simple Geiger. Reports of airborne beta particles spiking each time the wind shifts. Along I-70, the Mulberry Creek Bridge collapsed westbound lane. Eastbound still passable for light vehicles, but the guardrail's gone. The structural steel is exposed and visible from 50 meters. If your tires are low, you'll shred them on rebar. Now, I need to address the interference pattern again. I built a simple direct conversion detector with spare op-amps, scavenged from the old studio console, tuned it to 7 kHz offset and piped the baseband into a cheap audio editor running on my last surviving ThinkPad, bless the magnesium case, and data diodes. After slowing the recording 8-fold, I can hear distinct phase-encoded bursts, da-dit in 5-character groups repeated every 91 seconds. That's classic NTVLF protocol once taught for sub-ice communications. Translation is impossible without the one-time pads, but here's what unnerves me. Every burst ends with the same trailing tone, exactly 440 Hz. Concert A. You musicians know that as the note orchestras use to tune up before the show. Someone or something buried a perfect A-tone under the war orders. My engineer brain says it's a test tone. My gut says it's a signature. If anyone with cryptography chops is alive, start capturing. Could be the key to who's still calling the shots. Local morale update. At 1300, 2 survivors arrived on foot. 1 man, 1 teenage boy, carrying battery-powered drills asking for shelter. The man introduced himself as Dr. William Tate, veterinarian from Oak Grove. The boy, Levy, said nothing, just stared at the transmitter rack lights like they were campfire embers. I took them in after scanning for contamination. Both showed less than 0.3 millisieverts, total dose. They're asleep in Studio B now. Doc Tate said he heard my broadcast and walked 6 miles once the fires dimmed. He brought freeze-dried pet food, which frankly is better than nothing. We'll ration. I asked him if he'd heard sirens before the blast. He said the outdoor warning system triggered a single wail and then died mid-cycle. That matches the EAS header glitch. It suggests the strike package was coordinated to blind the alert infrastructure within seconds. Someone rehearsed this scenario. Not sure what else to add tonight. Oh, rare good news. The basement soda machine still takes quarters. Useless currency, small joy. I fished out a Mountain Dew and drank it flat and warm, thinking about all the marketing wizards who planned flavors for a future that no longer exists. All right, enough philosophy. Summary. Subtropolis remains safest shelter. Radiation dropping slowly. Convoy from Wichita inbound. Avoid Mulberry Creek westbound. Cryptic VLF pulses persist. Marcus Hale, signing off at 21:35. Hold the line, neighbors. Couldn't wait until night cycle. Emergency message. The rhythmic VLF pattern just changed tempo. Instead of 3 seconds on, 3 off, It's 2.5 on, 4 off, repeating. And between pulses I caught faint amplitude-modulated voice, male, mid-range, monotone, reading letters and numbers. Golf 6, Charlie 7 Romeo. The cadence matches old EAM blocks, 5 characters per group exactly. That means either the Air Force's Takamo birds are still aloft, or an automatic backup system is spitting codes into the void. Either way, strategic assets might still be out there, waiting for confirmations that will never come. Doc Tate thinks the codes might be telling boomers to stand by. I think they might be commands to fire again. We don't know. We can't decode without the pads. I'm logging this for posterity. If these tapes survive, maybe future historians can pinpoint the moment the last machine spoke the last order of a dead chain of command. I'm cutting transmission. Generator oil pressure warning lamp just blinked. I need to fix it before we lose power for good. Marcus out. Evening, survivors. Marcus Hale reporting. No major detonations within 300 clicks today. A small mercy. Ashfall light. Sky a sullen orange that reminds me of smog alerts back in '99, only thicker. First, quick resource bulletin. The Brookfield Municipal Well draws from 40-meter sandstone aquifer and tests at 2 microsiemens. That's potable with a charcoal filter. Town population believed under 40. If you're passing near Brookfield, signal on GMRS channel 22, privacy code 14. Local volunteers stage there noon to 2 for water exchange. Second, convoy Red River never reached Fort Riley. Instead, a Hammond Salinas had the buses diverted south due to a bridge outage. Last contact placed them near Lindsborg at 0945. They gave up broadcasting after static crashes on their frequency. Likely EMP from high-altitude bursts over Colorado Springs last night. So if you're waiting at Fort Riley, move on. The convoys scatter like seed in wind now. Doc Tate repaired 2 of our 3 diesel drums. Found pinhole leaks near the welds. He's handy with a stick welder, which makes him invaluable. We scouted a derelict grocery store and retrieved a solar trickle charger. 100 watts at best, but in this dim sun we'll take every amp. Levi, the boy, hasn't said a word yet, but he whistles sometimes. Tonight I recognize the tune, Amazing Grace, slow, breathy, perfect pitch. I asked about it. He shrugged. Maybe the last hymn he heard before sirens drowned the choir. Interference status. The concert A tail still present. I tried nulling it with a homemade loop antenna. No luck. Doc Tate claims it gives him migraines. I've started calling it the tuning fork, because that's what it feels like. Someone striking a giant fork against the world once every 91 seconds. I'm closing now. Mechanical maintenance and rest. Beckon. Stay hopeful. Stay hidden when the wind turns and keep one ear on the static. You never know which whisper might be the one you needed. Marcus out at 2103. Clear frequencies and clearer conscience. Marcus Hale on 1170. Low power. I'm coming to you 2 minutes early because the wind shifted south, and the studio door frame keeps rattling like a snare drum. I'm going to fill the next hour with everything I learned today, then shut down before the gusts rip out the vent stack. First things first, weather. The National Weather Service is a smoking hole, but my backyard Davis station still spits numbers into a handheld terminal I shielded with copper mesh. Outside temperature 8 Celsius, dew point 5. Wind steady at 26 knots, gusting to 38 out of 180. Barometer holding at 990 hectopascals. That's unusually low for spring in Missouri, which tells me dust high above us is cooling the troposphere fast. Expect sporadic sleet after midnight. If your shelter roof is tin, brace it with whatever lumber you have. Ice loading can collapse a flat panel before dawn. Radiation, average 0.8 millisieverts per hour in open air, down from yesterday's 0.9. Alpha contamination trace on car hoods. Wipe with wet cloth. Dispose outside. Potassium iodide doses remain constant. 130 milligrams for adults every 24 hours if you're still inside the 10-day thyroid window. Now to news of the outside. At 0742, we caught a faint packet burst on 405 megahertz, part of the old Caspis SARSAT search and rescue net. Someone triggered a PLB beacon northeast of Columbia, along the Missouri River floodplain. The encoded hex ID matches a model sold to civilian pilots, That means a light aircraft might have put down intact. If you're closer than we are, and mobile, tune your handheld to 406.04 and listen for 1/20th second sweeps every 50 seconds. The beacon battery will die in 36 hours tops. A downed aircraft could mean fresh med kits, perhaps even working avionics or flight charts you can trade. Doc Tate repaired the backup UPS today, scavenging 6 19-amp-hour lead acids from a forklift. We bolted the pack to the breaker panel so the transmitter won't hiccup when the diesel auto throttle kicks in. He earned his supper. Levi spoke his first full sentence. I was calibrating the audio chain, headphones on, when he tapped my shoulder and whispered, "I don't like the A note." I asked what he meant. He said every time the rhythmic hiss ends, he hears a pure tone like a flute underwater, and it hurts his ears. The EQ is flat. I can't hear that pitch unless I crank the monitors to distortion. Kids have better high-frequency hearing. Is the tuning fork carrying ultrasonic harmonics? I recorded a 5 kilohertz chunk around each pulse and found sidebands climbing past 22 kilohertz. Nothing human should embed energy that high unless it's deliberate spread spectrum modulation. Someone baked secrecy into physics. At 1000, we ventured outside the security fence for supplies. I drove the rust-colored news van, diesel engine clattering like loose cookware because the muffler rotted through. The suburban strip malls are unlit cathedrals of broken glass. We siphoned 20 gallons of 2 road fuel from an abandoned road salter truck and loaded a dozen 20-kilogram dog food sacks. Premium, lamb, and rice. Ironically better nutrition than stale crackers. Also found a pallet of 1-liter water bottles in a storage shed with a cracked roof to unbroken shrink wrap. The plastic tasted scorched. We'll run it through carbon blocks anyway. The van's windshield is spiderwebbed from thermal shock. I drive, peering through the gap under the sun visor, shrugging at each bump because we can't find a replacement windshield. If you salvage vehicle windows, remember tempered glass fragments into beads. Laminated windshields stay in place. Never swap one for the other. Weeds already poke through parking lot seams. Not radiation mutant vines, just plain fescue reclaiming asphalt. Funny how normal the planet looks between disasters. I spent the afternoon rewiring the telco rack. Found a pair of analog telephone patch panels still wired to coax that runs west under the highway. Old STL path for our FM link. I patched it into the receiver chain and discovered it doubles as a crude VLF antenna. The pulses jumped 6 decibels. I set the cassette deck rolling full-time to capture a 40-minute sample. Playing it backward at half speed isolates sporadic voice bursts buried under the clicks. Male again, slight Midwestern drawl, reading groups, Golf 6, Charlie. 2 Echo, Papa 4, Mike 09, Break, Delta Lima, Alpha. 5 groups, pause, 5 more. That's unmistakably EAM syntax. Without the cipher sheet, translation is hopeless, but at 31 minutes in, the voice deviated. No groups, just an exhale and a whispered line. Too late, they won't answer. Then the pattern resumed. Could be tape bleed or operator error. Gives me chills either way. Doc Tate suggested the possibility the system is automated but uses spliced voice segments. If so, the whisper was human. Leakage. A live controller stepping on an automated broadcast, which implies somebody sits at a console somewhere, listening for replies that never come. We need better equipment. I remembered that rock and roll station KTLF in Jefferson City used to maintain a Harris MW50 transmitter and a backup. Collins R390A receiver for nostalgia weekends. Tube gear like that shrugs off EMP. Tomorrow at dawn, Doc and I will drive east 90 miles to scout the facility. Risky distance, but we need a high dynamic range receiver to pull the tuning fork apart. Levi will remain here with the generator on idle. He can flip the breaker and call Mayday on CB if raiders roll up. Raiders. The word slides too easy now. 2 nights ago, a pair of pickup trucks cruised past the frontage road with headlights taped to slits and spotlights sweeping ditches. They never turned up the drive, but I saw silhouettes in the bed, men holding long arms. Probably hunting for fuel or easy meal tickets. We keep floodlights off and park vehicles behind the transmitter building. Best cloak is darkness. I've started wearing my press badge again, even though the lamination peeled. The corporate logo, blue capital R inside a circle, feels like a joke in this aftermath. But the weight of that plastic reminds me why I stay on air. Witnesses matter. Record everything. If you're journaling, keep multiple copies. Store one in a metal cookie tin, wrap in cloth, label with pencil. Paper survives longer than silicone. There's talk of a refugee camp forming at Lake Giacomo Spillway. A ham named Clara, call sign K0 Gun, reported erecting tarp shelters tied to lifeguard towers. They pull water from the lake and treat it with pool store chlorine tablets. Geiger says the mud underfoot spikes 2.5 millisieverts per hour when storms stir sediment. She told me, "We'd leave, but where? Ash above, poison below. If you head there, take boots and know the dose trade-off." I promise practical tips, so here. When taping seams on a plastic sheeting shelter, use butyl rubber if you can scavenge it from tire repair kits. Duct tape delaminates after 2 days of damp ash. Also, a single layer of aluminum foil behind your portable radio's ferrite loop can increase gain toward the foil's front side. Poor man's reflector. Helps pull weak stations out of mush, or swimming in mush. Doc asked if I ever picture the moment the world rebounds. Clear sky, functioning traffic lights, kids arguing about music again. I said sure, I imagine it every time I sign off. Then I store the tape in a fireproof safe because none of this will matter if no one remembers. Switching topics. Personal check-in. I'm running on 4 hours of sleep total. Dreams come in distorted color, towers bending, people with flash-burned shadows etched on sidewalk like chalk outlines. I wake to the real whine of the transmitter modulation transformers. So in a way, I never leave work. That's fine. Purpose keeps the heart pumping. Anna. If you're listening, I found 3 more scratches on the F-150 driver door. Same pattern. You're close. I taped a wind-up radio inside the truck along with a note. Knock 3 times on the south wall at noon. If I'm not in, Doc or Levi will answer through the intercom slot. I want to see you, but I respect your reasons. Maybe you're traveling with others who don't trust strange bunkers. I'll end with a repetition of safe zone information for anyone new on dial. Subtropolis, still open, entry grid 67.2 by 39.5 west. Brookfield well water, 2 microsiemens. Seek GMRS 22 code 14. Avoid Mulberry Creek's westbound bridge on I-70. Monitor 406.04 for beacon sweeps. If you decode any portion of the tuning fork message, log the time, group count, and your receiver's IF bandwidth. Call me on AM or leave a taped envelope at mile marker 219 eastbound way station. Generator battery indicator just flashed amber. That's my cue. Powering down carrier in 10 seconds, sleep tight behind thick walls and denser hope. Marcus again, emergency bulletin. Bright flash observed bearing 260 over horizon. Likely a second stage detonation or fuel airburst, not nuclear. No EMP detected. I measured only a minor tick on the dosimeter. However, the blast might send shock from our way in 20 minutes. If you're within 50 miles east of Kansas City, seek cover away from windows. Pressure waves shatter glass faster than you can blink. We'll remain on low modulation as beacon. 2 short carrier breaks every 60 seconds will mark elapsed time. When wind noise calms, we'll resume normal sign-off. Audio alternating 30-second carrier tones and 5-second breaks for 13 minutes. A dull thunder rolls faintly in the background mic. Blast passed overhead. Just a sonic boom, maybe a jet breaking Mach over low-density air. Stand down. Radiation unchanged. Whoever still flies fast movers must have runway access and fuel stockpiles. Eyes open. Now, truly signing off. Back tomorrow with sunrise recon report from Jefferson City. Conditions permitting. Marcus out. Field log. Mobile unit. KROA Van 1. Marcus speaking. Coordinates 38 degrees 31.4 north, 91 degrees 53.7 west, U.S. Highway 50 near Lone Jack. We're en route to Jefferson City, Doc's driving. I'm riding shotgun, towel wrapped around the AKG handheld mic because foam windscreen fell apart. Road conditions. Eastbound pavement shows transverse cracking at bridge joints from thermal cycling. Speed 30 miles per hour to save fuel. We passed 2 burned-out semis stacked nose-to-tail blocking westbound lane at mile marker 182. Cargo spill, crushed chlorine pellets, mixing with pooled water, forming volatile green vapor clouds around dawn. Avoid that stretch after rainfall. Radiation steady at 0.6. Wind light, sky tinted sepia, sun trying to burn through. I can almost imagine morning haze instead of fallout. We carry a 12-volt converter powering the Collins R390A we hope to collect. Got tool chest, crowbar, spare tubes scavenged from our 20V3, plus Geiger counter, bolt cutters, and 1.30 30-lever rifle. Weapons discussion. Keep muzzle pointed down, finger off trigger. The old KTLF tower still stands. 150-meter Blaw-Knox diamond. Paint faded, but intact. Tuning house door padlock twisted off, probably by earlier scavengers, but interior untouched. Collins receiver under dust sheet, serial number 931. Tubes look unbroken, power caps green with corrosion but salvageable. We loaded it plus spare crystal filters into van. Also found a shelf of jazz vinyl, Monk, Coltrane, kept half for morale. We powered receiver via inverter, aligned BFO, tuned to 8 kHz offset. The tuning fork pops louder than before, harmonics clear as church bells. Doc thinks the tower's massive guy wire earth field couples VLF straight into front end. We'll haul the rig home, weight 200 pounds, suspension groans. Town damage moderate, no craters. Courthouse columns fractured but upright. Streets empty except a collie trotting between dried fountains. Radiation here 0.4, safer than our station ironically. We siphoned 15 gallons diesel from a city snowplow still parked under maintenance shed. Gauge reads half. We dared not empty it. Others will need. Time 2 minutes to 11. We're rolling back now. Roadblock at mile marker 169. 3 SUVs nose out. Jersey barriers. Sign spray painted. Refugees turn back. No people visible. We idled 100 meters short, scanned with binoculars. Empty driver seats, doors ajar, bullet holes through windshields. Someone ambushed the ambushers. We threaded the van through a drainage ditch, bottomed out once, but cleared. Lost rear license plate, not priority. Leave a check-in via CB at 1830, all quiet. Good kid. If you find this cassette first, KROA transmitter address on label. Bring it home. The story matters. Back on mic. Safe. Marcus Hale reporting. Thanks for waiting through dead air. The Jefferson City trip succeeded. I'm now speaking through the salvage Collins receiver used as a pre-selector, feeding our modulation chain. Noise floor dropped 5 decibels. The tuning fork stands out like a metronome. I recorded an hour sample and ran frequency analysis. The pulse envelope contains subcarriers at 5.1 and 7.7 kHz with exact 2 kHz spacing hallmark of MIL STD 188 phase shift keying. Between bursts, the male voice recites 5-letter groups. Tonight, for the first time, I captured one message twice. Identical. Golf 6, Charlie. 2 Echo. Papa. 4 Mike 09. Repeated verbatim. That suggests either retransmission due to lack of AC or my fear a lost ship pleading for confirm. I cross-checked ship pennant numbers once used by the Ohio-class subs. G6C2E doesn't match hull codes. Might be an authentication challenge. If we can feed back correct reply, we could identify ourselves as command authority. Of course, we don't have reply pads, and hoaxing military comms could trigger doomsday failsafes. So we listen, not answer. During equipment install, Levi spotted movement on perimeter CCTV, wireless camera. We perched on old microwave dish. 2 figures climbed the chain link, approached generator shed, withdrew when floodlight activated. They left boot prints. Measured 9.5 inches, tread pattern Vibram. Professional kit. Not hungry wanderers. We're tightening dawn watch. Our supply count, diesel 130 gallons, propane 8 cylinders, canned goods for 48 man-days. Water standing 900 liters filtered. I share these numbers because transparency builds trust. If you plan to join, you know how you'll fit. Doc discovered an old RCA ribbon microphone tucked behind the studio couch. Says legendary DJs once used its twin. I polished the chrome and plugged it into preamp. Warmer timbre than the modern condenser. Feels like speaking through history. Music break? Tempting, but licensing boards dissolved with the grid. Still, jazz on vinyl turned by hand crank might soothe nerves tomorrow. Maybe Coltrane's Nema. Low volume. Behind announcements. Let me know via CB Channel 14 if background music helps or distracts. Democracy endures even in rubble. Before sign-off, one more technical tip. If you lack proper Geiger counter, create a makeshift electroscope using aluminum foil leaves inside a jar. Rub a plastic rod with wool to charge, note divergence angle. After exposure to radiation, ionization will discharge leaves faster. Calibration rough, but better than guessing. Time now 22:34. Generator temp green. Oil pressure stable thanks to Doc's gasket fix. I'm shutting carrier in 30 seconds to rotate fuel drums. Keep copies of the signal, duplicate tapes. Stories die when voices fade. Marcus Hale going dark. Hold fast. Evening, friends. You're hearing John Coltrane because tonight felt starved for beauty. If the sax bothers you, picture it as proof culture breathes still. First order. Security incident. At 0410 this morning, motion detector tripped inside the loading bay. I rushed with flashlight and found the new Collins receiver power switch flipped off, tubes cooling, dust scent sharp. No sign of forced entry. Levi swore he slept in hallway and heard nothing. Doc suggested electromagnetic trickery. Someone outside coupling field to switch his metal toggle. Far-fetched? Maybe. But I traced copper phone pairs that run under the parking lot. They act as unintended antennas. Someone with RF expertise could induce currents, toggling relays remotely. Keep your electronics shielded. At dawn, Anna appeared at gate. She wore a charcoal gray respirator, goggles taped, hair singed at ends. She wasn't alone, accompanied by two women, both armed with Mossberg shotguns. They identified as nurses from Centerpoint Medical Center, fled after generators failed. They hold 40 units of broad-spectrum antibiotics and a cooler of insulin packs thawing fast. We admitted them after screening. Welcome, Heather and Sloan. The bunker swells to 6 souls. Anna and I spoke on roof at sunset. She said Mom and Dad sheltered in basement back in Independence, but a secondary gas main explosion leveled the block. No more details. She didn't cry. Tears evaporate somewhere between ash and grief. She asked if broadcasting hope isn't cruel. I said ignorance cuts deeper. Now to external intel. Clara at Lake Giacomo reported a daring salvage. Her group accessed a school's solar array, lashed panels to canoe frames, floated across lake, boosting camp power. She invites radio-savvy folks to help build community repeater on 2-meter band, frequency 146.42 MHz simplex. She's trading water purification tablets for Cokes or PL259 connectors. Also for travelers, the Truman Sports Complex parking lot operates a swap meet from 1000 to 1500 daily. Bring batteries, antibiotics, reading glasses, hot commodities. Weapons strictly outside fence line, disputes settled by barter judge nicknamed Ledger. I haven't vetted them, exercise caution. Radiation peaked at 0.5 today, a hopeful trend. Cloud ceiling lifted enough to glimpse a pale sun disk. Birds, not crows but starlings, flew in ragged chevron. Life persists. Technical report: I coupled Collins IIEVE to laptop sound card through isolation transformer, ran multi-tone decode using open source Sigmira. It suggested the sidebands hide 300-bit blocks, Reed Solomon coded. Could reconstruct frame headers but payload encrypted with 64-character pad. Without key, walls stay up. But header lists serial. 3127. That proves schedule automation. Doc wonders if we could transmit back using same modulation, imposter acknowledgement. Risk, trip a dead man switch. We tabled discussion. Food. Turn dog kibble into stew with canned tomatoes. Taste acceptable. Sodium high. Drink extra water. Maintenance tip. Diesel stored in polydrums grows microbial sludge after weeks. Add biocide if found at farm supply stores. Trade name BioClean. Shake drum. Time 22:47. Coltrane fading. I'll let Sol carry us out. Remember, the easiest way to cut dose is stay indoors when wind howls. Shield, shelter, sustain. Marcus clear. Marcus with urgent alert. I understand most of you tune in after sundown, but events force day broadcast. At 12:56, we intercepted distress on Marine Channel 16, 156.8 MHz FM. Voicemail, panicked. Reporting barge convoy on Missouri River struck submerged debris near Glasgow. Chemicals leaking. Barge cargo manifest included liquid ammonia nitrate and chlorine. Cloud drifting south-southeast. If you are within 15 miles downstream, Boonville, Rocheport, evacuate river valley to higher ground immediately. Chlorine heavier than air, pools low areas, respirators with activated charcoal needed. Wet cloth is minimal help. We relayed message to Clara's camp. They're moving upslope. Highway 40 bridge traffic blocked by jackknife fuel tanker. Best escape route is County Road, BB to I-70 Outer Road. Repeat, avoid river lowlands near Boonville, Rocheport. Keep FM handheld on channel 16 for updates. We're powering down again. Generator cannot sustain day runs. Spread word via CB and GMRS. Evening broadcast. Situation evolving. The chlorine cloud expansion stopped after wind shift to north-northeast, diluting gas. No casualties reported yet, though 3 refugees present coughing fits. Doc recommends inhaled saline to clear irritation. In the chaos, our station received an unexpected guest. At 17:30, a man on motorcycle arrived waving a white rag. He identified himself as Lieutenant Arjun Patel, former communications officer of USS Kansas City, a literal combat ship sunk in first strikes near Port of Los Angeles. He says he escaped east with flash drive holding partial decode tables for last-generation EAM formats. How he survived journey is another tale, one he'll record later. Lieutenant Patel listened to the tuning fork sample, nodded slowly and claimed, "The voice belongs to Captain Wallace Hartwell, commander of Airborne Command Post Looking Glass." According to Patel, after ground command obliteration, the EC-130H aircraft would orbit transmitting prearranged firing sequences, awaiting verification. If no verification within 7 days, aircraft would shift to code VLC, voice loop continuity, automated repeating message until fuel exhaustion. We are on day 8, so planes should be grounded, but the pulses persist. That means either mid-air refueling continues or the transmitter sits at an undamaged ELF site such as Jim Creek, Washington, or Cutler, Maine. Patel suggests we attempt contact on fallback verification channel 15.2 kHz. Using 200 baud FSK, we lack such transmitter, need huge antenna and kilowatts, but knowledge alone chills blood. Anna fears meddling may invite retaliation from whoever runs show. I agree, caution paramount. Lieutenant brought clip-on ferrite rings for Cokes, claimed to cut common mode noise. He speaks with quiet authority, eyes scanning corners. I sense burden of survivor's guilt. We will integrate him into crew. Supplies. Jefferson City, salvage, delivered 3 boxes vacuum tubes, 2 sine wave inverters, 1 flask reagent-grade alcohol, can double as antiseptic and morale booster. Observation, tonight, the aurora borealis, faint over north horizon, green sheet wavering. Nitrate ions in upper atmosphere from detonations cause such displays at lower latitudes. Beautiful omen of terror. Security. Heather and Sloan installed tripwires with piezo buzzers along south tree line. We rotate 2-hour watch cycles. Radiation point 4 average. If trend continues, we might venture farther for seed stock. Levi dreams of planting beans near culvert where soil shallow. Dow. I will end with brief reflection. Radio waves ignore borders and politics. They travel until Earth curves them to space. Somewhere, maybe Mars rover still relays weather from thin air of Jezero crater. Oblivious to creator's fall. That comforts me. The universe appreciates persistence. Marcus signing off, 2301. Hold frequency. Marcus Hale on air. The studio clocks tick, but I barely feel them. Quick log, radiation outside 0.35 MSV H1. Sky a copper wash at sunset. The tuning fork pulse still beats every 91 seconds, but Lieutenant Patel isolated a second sequence. Double space groups transmitted 10 minutes after the main burst. Sidebands carry 300-bit Reed-Solomon frames. Headers show serial 3130. That means at least 2 messages rotate. He believes these are challenge reply loops. No reply in 7 days usually forces a strategic fallback. We're on day 9. Whatever machine drives this is now outside its doctrine. Patel thinks the signal comes from NAA Cutler, Maine, the world's most powerful very low-frequency array. 1 million watts, 13,225 hertz, phase towers pointed at the Atlantic. If the control bunker survived, it's broadcasting on autopilot. If the wrong checksum flips, the code tree could spill. Unverified submarines might read it as launch authorization. We can't risk that. Patel proposes a blackout acknowledgement. Transmit a single-tone null on the Cutler antenna's 21 kHz auxiliary channel. That would reset the loop. Problem: we're 1,600 kilometers away with no megawatt generator. But he has a plan B. 20 kilometers south sits the decommissioned naval radio station at Grain Valley, call sign NPG. Its underground vault still holds a 250 kilowatt Kleinschmidt alternator and a 3-kilometer wire field strung through farmland. A tornado in 14 dropped 3 towers, yet half the array stands. If we hotwire the alternator, we can insert our null at 17 kHz. The auxiliary channel spec allows that frequency. Cutler's controller would hear a friendly checksum, stop looping, and log friendly alive. Risky, but better than sitting while the world waits for a ghost to sneeze. We've mapped a route. State Route 7 to Grain Valley's service entrance, bypass the cave slab on Buckner Drive, break the steel hatch, spin up the alternator with a diesel tug engine left by civil engineers, then broadcast. Lieutenant wrote the null frame on a sheet of mylar with grease pencil, long, short burst lasting 1.8 seconds. Pause 600 ms, then identical burst. Repeat 5 times. That's the maintenance ping once used during antenna calibration. Doc Tate will stay and keep KROA alive. Anna and the nurses guard Levi. Patel and I roll before dawn in the news van with fuel sled and PTO coupling to spin the alternator. We carry filter masks, bolt cutters, and my grandfather's 1911 sidearm. I pray we don't need it. Practical note: if you run diesel in freezing ash, add 0.1 kerosene to prevent wax crystal clogging. Learned that while bleeding injectors tonight. Signing off. Tomorrow is bigger than any broadcast yet. If you pick up dead air at this hour, know we tried. Oh, road log. We cleared Bait City and turned north to Grain Valley. Radiation 0.28. Windshield smeared but viewable. Lieutenant Patel rifles through NPG blueprints, photocopies he kept after a NATO exercise. He says vault entrance sits under an innocuous Quonset hut. 2 obstacles. Backfilled access road blocked by derailed grain hoppers and a pair of men tailing us on dirt bikes. Black helmets, no plates. At 450 they flashed high beams then vanished behind a silo. Possible scavengers. We keep the CB on channel 7, call sign Courier. If no update by nightfall, this tape becomes my will. We breach the rusted padlock. Inside, dust-shrouded equipment racks, cables coiled like fossil snakes. Hatch wheel spins but seals still bite. We unlatched and pried. 5-meter ladder into darkness. Smell of old oil. No smoke. Battery lantern shows intact alternator. 2-story drum of copper. Nameplate 1,250 revolutions per minute, 250 kilowatts. Patel sets up portable tack. Couples PTO shaft from van through truck drive shaft. Universal we welded last night. He calculates 1,100 revolutions per minute. Yields 17 kHz line. Frequency, acceptable. I'll man the control console. Analog levers labeled ARM energized modulate. Each weighs a kilogram. Blast doors have date chalked 1992 last test. Air is cold. Still, radioactive dust count minimal. Good omen. But static on handheld indicates someone outside keyed CB then silent. Our watchers? Time to spin alternator. Recorder off. Rotor at 1080 revolutions per minute. Voltage climbing to 4.5 kV. I insert dummy load bank. Current steady. Patel calls over intercom. Ready for insertion. He feeds Mylar null code into mechanical keyer. Solenoid punches. Contact points with the rhythm of a giant breathing. I throw modulate lever. Every hair on my arms prickles. Invisible 17 kHz hum thrums through concrete. Oscilloscope on control bench shows perfect twin bursts. We repeat sequence 5 times. Patel kills keyer. We coast rotor for cooling. If Cutler hears it, their logic tree should silence the EAM loop in next cycle, 91 seconds from now. We sprint topside with portable receiver tuned to 8 kHz offset. Wait. Pulse. Silence. 1 cycle passes. Second cycle. Silence. 9 pulses later, still nothing. We exchange relieved nods. A rifle shot cracks. Bullet tears van's mirror. Raiders attack. We duck behind generator skids. 2 bike helmets advance, rifles leveled. Patel shouts, "We're not worth the lead." They answer with second shot. I fire warning round overhead. Echo an empty antenna field. They hesitate. See no easy loot. Back away. Engines whine into distance. We exhale. No injuries. Van fuel tank hold. Diesel dripping. We patch with epoxy and duct tape. Enough to limp home. Recorder off. Mission report. Tuning fork stopped. Wideband monitor. Silent hungry void. Lieutenant Patel's null code worked. For the first time since the first flash, background static feels like ordinary ionospheric hiss, not a metronome of doom. Doc poured a thimble of flask whiskey for the 6 of us. We toasted quietly. Heather said it tasted like medicine, which felt right. Bitter, but healing. Yet relief sits on edge of fear. If the loop masked worse contingencies, we'll learn soon. Cuts both ways. Patel tweaks Collins' receiver nightly to watch for new commands. For now, sky stays empty. I promise truth. So here, we wasted half our remaining diesel. Van limps? Raiders exist. But we bought the world time. Minutes, hours. Maybe the difference between aftershock and conclusion. Practical tip. When sealing bullet hole in metal fuel tank, rough surface with file, apply 2-part putty epoxy, wrap with fiberglass cloth, soaked in more resin, then support with hose clamp until cured. Don't light matches for at least an hour. Marcus back. 4 days of comparative quiet. No pulses, no detonations. Radiation down to 0.22 MSVH1. Enough to spend an hour outdoors without exceeding a daily work limit dose. We've begun small agriculture. Levi and Anna cleared cinder block planters on roof, filled with scraped topsoil, planted beans and carrot seeds saved from a feed store. Sun's dim, spectrum shifted orange, but we gamble. Doc finished converting 1 transmitter bay into greenhouse warm zone using waste amplifier heat. Clever. Tonight's main news. Clara's Lake Giacomo settlement relayed a government shortwave voice they caught on 5867 kHz USB. Female speaker, calm, mid-Atlantic accent greeting any civic authorities. She claimed to broadcast from Continuity Station Echo, location withheld for security, and invited coordination on public safety matters. She read a list of call signs, mostly large market AM stations. She didn't mention us. We answered politely via our 1 kilowatt HF exciter on 6200 kHz, identifying as independent relay. No reply yet, but proof emerges. A remnant hierarchy lives. Lieutenant Patel analyzed audio. Voice matches library samples of Vice Admiral Laurel Kessler, former Navy Cyber War Director. If correct, continuity echo might be at Cheyenne Mountain's lower levels, deep enough to withstand surface breach. The surface entrance took a warhead, but lower caverns can survive. So, command nodes flicker. Strategically, it means Central Authority may reclaim broadcast bands soon. I'm torn. Welcome order, fear censorship. For now, we keep telling the local truth. Survivor census, 6 here. 24 at Lake Giacomo. Maybe 40 at Subtropolis. unknown in rural fringes. Epidemic illnesses minimal thanks to cold fallout, but mental fatigue high. Sloan leads short nightly meditations over RPA. I find it odd but comforting. Technical note: sunspot count near zero, HF bands dead midday. Open briefly twilight. Take advantage gray line. Tonight's broadcast will replay mission audio from Grain Valley, so listeners grasp stakes, then open mic to Patel for debrief. Patel speaks. He thanks unknown technicians who built failsafes strict enough to require human warmth. Machine war paused by manual null. His voice catches. I cut feed to spare him. Personal reflection. When the pulses vanished, silence felt louder, like stepping out of pneumatic factory into forest. It rang. Severe weather alert. Ash-laden cumulonimbus over central Missouri. Electric charge builds quickly in dust atmosphere. Risk of dirty lightning showering conductive fallout. Shelter indoors, unplug aerials, ground long wires. We lowered Crow A tower feed to 10 meters, disconnected coax, run on dummy load, broadcast via small roof whip. Clara reports first newborn since blasts. Baby girl, mother stable. They named her Grace, after the hymn Levi whistled. Hope multiplies. Continuity. Echo finally answered. Admiral Kessler herself or a delegate. She wants situational reports formatted in salute. Size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment, transmitted daily at 19 o'clock Z, channel 5000 kHz. She offered medical supply drops via drone. We accepted, but insisted on transparent exchange. She agreed. Tomorrow, 13 o'clock local, drone will beacon IFF code Echo Foxtrot 1 on 137 MHz. We will clear landing pad south of generator shed. Paint X with white lime, fingers crossed. Anna skeptical. Package could carry spyware. I reminded her we broadcast openly. Hiding isn't option. She nods. Security. Raiders not seen since Grain Valley. Maybe clouds spook them. Signing off before thunder knocks us out. Keep batteries dry. Keep hope drier still. Drone arrived. A surplus Scan Eagle with bright orange nose. It circled. Deployed small chute bundle. Inside, penicillin vials, bandages, freeze-dried meals. Letter on laminated stock. To civilian relay, KROA. Continue public service transmissions. Further drops contingent on daily sitrep. Echo. Also enclosed a handheld sat-nav receiver fed by surviving GPS-3 block satellites. Shows 6:30 seconds birds up. Good enough for mapping. We recorded drop details. Patel already drafting sitrep. Grace's birth message relayed. Admiral congratulated. Small step toward network of survivors. Month mark. Radiation 0.17. First shoots sprouted in planters. Beans symmetrical. Leaves pale from UV filter but alive. We share half-cup coffee substitute. Roasted acorns. Taste woody, yet warm. Admiral's people ask if we'll serve as Midwest relay in wider national emergency network. They call it ribbon. Duties? Maintain AM voice for 12 hours, send digital bulletins HF, coordinate resource nodes. We accepted condition, editorial autonomy. She laughed. Welcome to free radio. Good sign. We need bigger generator. Patel suggests repurposing locomotive diesel at derailed train near Independence. Heavy lift. Doc, Levi and I will attempt locomotive salvage tomorrow dawn. Anna stays to broadcast. Risk high, but dream bigger than bunker. We boarded an EMD SD-70, cab scorched but diesel intact. Started auxiliary batteries with jumper pack. 16-cylinder engine coughed, then throbbed. Clumsy joy. We cannot drive locomotive. Rails bent. But alternator alone provides 3 MW if we tap it static. Plan, detached traction converters, bolt PTO shafts from van to shaft flange, tow generator, rotor off camber. Crazy. Instead, we pulled 4 rack mount rectifiers and copper bus bars plus spare injectors. Good haul. Raiders ambushed at noon. Same black helmets. Demanded fuel. We negotiated exchange. 40 liters diesel for letting us leave. They agreed. Proof rules evolve. Back by 19 o'clock. Levi's eyes wide, hearing engine echo memory. Marcus live. Network ribbon now tallies 14 independent stations from Maine to New Mexico. We pass weather, medical, location of safe wells. Chlorine spill handled, river safe again. St. Louis enclave relit old hydro plant at chain of rocks. Lights flicker along flood wall. Every sunset we simulcast 2 minutes of music. Tonight Coltrane again, Anna's Choice while rocking Grace, family adopted by Yakimo Camp. Music travels further than fear. Raiders, now call themselves Road Watch, began trading scrap metal for antibiotics. Civilization sprouts strangely. Patel disabled remaining Cutler Echo by uplink per Admiral's instructions. Machine war sleeps. Radiation 0.12. We hold weekly town hall nets. Survivors debate seed selection, water law, school curriculum. I record archived metal boxes lined with wax paper. If you find this tape in some far tomorrow, no year is 2025, month uncertain. Our calendars melted. But we mark seasons by bean pods and thunderheads. The sky still glows copper, yet stars prick through at night. Orion draws his bow again. I promised logical ending, but life denies neat bows. So here is our truth. We persist. We turned a cursed frequency into lifeline, a null burst into lullaby. We build gardens on transmitter roofs and trade hopes on AHF channels. I will keep speaking until voice fails or someone better picks microphone. Until then, this is Marcus Hale, call sign Courier, transmitter Croa AM, latitude 39.015 north, longitude 94.235 west, elevation 312 meters. Power output tonight 850 watts, carrier crystal 170 quaches. May these words ride the ionosphere and fall like gentle rain on every broken rooftop. Good night, America. Broken yet breathing. Hold the line.